Hi, I'm Lars. Welcome back to the shop, over to our front porch. As you can see, the brick is moving on up, and yes, I've been recording as I've been going. This video is going to go beyond the row 1 and row 2, and it's going to start talking about how you deal with these elevations back here and how do you keep them level. It's also going to talk a little bit about how do you get around window trim, what you need to do to get around windows and doors, and how do you come up to the top of the door and whatnot. So if you're still interested in this, you still want to see how this works, let's get to it. Now remember when I said your mortar is going to get thick as the day goes on, as time goes on. Heat is going to make this water evaporate. So just put a little bit more water in when it starts getting thick, because on the second row, the second course of stone, you want this to be a little thinner than you did on the bottom. And see how much just a little bit of mortar, a little bit of water mixed into the mortar, how much that changed. So remember, you put only 4 cups of water, 4 32-ounce cups, all right, to 40 to 50 pounds of mortar. So you only need a little bit of water to thin this thing down. You don't want it to be super thin, but you want it to be thin enough that you can work with it, and that when it dries and you push the stone to the wall, it's going to gush out and fill in all the empty spaces. All right, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so now that I ground off a little bit of this in the back, we're sitting level. And now when I put this stone up against it, this one's also going to be matching the top, which is what you want. Now all we need to do is take this and push this back to the wall, check the level again. That looks good. And then draw a line on here, like that. And then make sure this is going to be in the same spot. It is. We are good. Okay. Now, we need to draw a line on the other side of this also. Now, I know you might be thinking, why are you just not measure down from the top? And that's because the wood that's on the top of this is not exactly level all the way across. You can't guarantee that. So, like I said, the elevations are the bottom of the window. That's the thing that we're heading for right now. The next thing will be this electrical outlet here, the bottom of it. That'll be on the row 3, and then we'll work our way up from there. Right. Now, I am using the same stone on this side. Even though I ground off that piece, I'm fine. But this is level, so I'm going to put a line here too. Like that. Now I can get with Susan, and I can get her to hold on one side, and I can pull it down to here, we can snap it, now we got a line going all the way down. You ready?
Yep.
So make sure you pull this line tight and then snap it. And that'll give you another guideline. This process is something you need to do for every single row. Now, I'm not going to do this in every single row. In fact, I'm probably going to get this row in, and then the third row, we're going to be dealing with the elevation by the window. And so I'm going to show you what to do with that. And maybe the fourth row, we'll deal with the bottom of the outlets, okay? And then I will do a bunch of work, and then I'll get back when we get to the top of this window and the other window, all right? So to make sure you understand what's going on with that, how we get above the door, and then how we finish up to the top, all right? All right, I said I'd start filming again when I hit this first transition, and we have. Now, I already did the other side window because it's really long, and this one here you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. On this window, I'm starting to measure up from here to here, and on this side we've got 2 1/4 inches, and as you're going along here, this is starting to get a little tighter, all right? Because the brick is level, 100% level, but you don't want to bring this, if you keep on running this the way it is, and that this is going to be, you know, less than 2 inches over here. So you got a 4-foot span, This is about 2 3/16 is what I should say. Now it's, well, it's a little less than 2 1/4, so 3/16. And by the time we get out here, this is going to be 2 and about 1/8, right? Maybe. So it's only about a 16-inch difference between this side and this side. It's nothing that if you look at it from a distance that you're going to notice. But the big thing that I'm trying to get through to everybody to convey here is you have to start trimming down these stones at least underneath this window, okay? So for me, it's a window. For you, it could be a window, it could be the top of a door, it could be whatever. You know, getting to the very top of the wall too. And you need to trim the stones down to try to keep the distance in there the same, because that is what people's eyes are going to be drawn to, all right? If you have, you know, a piece of stone on this side this big and this side like this on the window, someone's going to see it. If it's like this, you're not going to see that. But you see, when you bring them together, there's a difference. But here, you're kind of like, you're not, might be an optical illusion, the angle I'm looking at it or whatever. And yes, this is done everywhere on stonework. So this is one of those things that, being a DIYer, extreme DIYer, just a DIYer in general, that you're going to notice. You're going to be like, oh man, I'm not doing this right, this is crap, you know, whatever. And I'm going to tell you that there are walls out there in the world that are done by professionals that do this every day, that they make it aesthetically pleasing, but there's going to be flaws in it. There's always flaws in everything that is built. Alright, so this is where your elevation starts affecting your stonework. Okay, so I can't just put a piece of stone in here, and I don't want to just cut this here and then cut a piece down and set it in. I want it to look nice. Okay, I want it to fit in here just like as it looks like the window just came out of the stone. So what you do is you put your piece of stone up here and you make sure that, you know, you check your height of your line and everything, 'cause you might have to cut this down. But you just mark on this side of the piece of wood. Okay, like right at that line where your frame's at. And then you back this up this way and you set it down as you get as much of it on here as you can, and you mark this side that way. Now when you have your line here and here, you connect these two lines together and put a big X here, because this is what you're going to be cutting out, is that little section. When you're done with it, you're going to have something that looks like this. Alright? And after a lot of tries, fails, grinding away a little more here and there, little spots and whatever, you're going to get a stone that's going to fit in just like that. And that, in my opinion, looks really good. Now so the difference is going to be when you get to this next stone here, you're going to want to just set this down here, and you're going to mark and cut the top of it off and then try to slide it in. If you do that, you're going to see these little tiny circles, okay? Because these are man-made stones, these little pieces of gravel that you're cutting through. So what I do when I'm on the bottom is I put this in like this, okay? So what I'll do is I'll measure the distance here and the distance here, the length of the whatever stone you're putting in. Then I'll measure down from the top on each side, draw this line, and cut the bottom of it off so I can set this in. All right? That's the way that I do it, so that if you have any of the stone that's coming out, you're not going to see these little balls on top all the way down the window. Now before you put mud on these, you saw me fit this in a couple different times, and what I was doing, I was trying to figure out how much mud do I actually need on the back of this, because this has got to get pushed in some. Alright, because I don't want it hanging all the way out, because I don't want to see these little bubbles on the top, and this is just something under the window. So I'm going to thin the mud out on this side here a little bit. I'm going to leave this here kind of bulked up, and then we're just going to set this in here, and then I'm going to tap lightly. I cannot emphasize how lightly you want to tap, and keep like put your fingers back here a little bit to make sure that you still got a little bit of room. And then once you get it where you want it, just leave it alone. Don't keep pounding on it. Don't keep trying to move it around, because if you do, you're going to end up cracking it. I told you I would start recording it when we got to the next elevation point, and we're at that. Currently, you can see here on the ground that there are 5 rows of stone that are up. They go up to the bottom of the window, wrap around the window, and they also go around all of the outlets. The reason that you do this first and you try to get this all the way down is because it's a pain in the butt and the legs and knees and everything else to keep bending over and standing up, bending over and standing up. And a lot of people will start on one side and they'll start getting it up, going up the wall, and then they have to come over here and then they got to bend back down and do it again, and then again and again and again. If you get that out of the way, you can actually move faster, all right, by putting these up. Now, this looks like it's really level, and it does. Visually, it looks great. It looks like it's really level and whatever. However, we have a window right here, we have a door, and then we have a bigger window. And these guys are going to tell a different story, all right? So you can look at it and go, yeah, this looks really good. But they will tell a different story if there's a ½ inch difference on each side, okay? So if we look at this window right here, and we were to hit a ½ inch below here with one side of the brick, and on this side here you hit at the very top, when you put these together, you're going to be cutting the brick really funky looking to get them to merge across. So you want to get these two things to line up with the top of an opening. Now the way you can do that, and the way that I do it, is you take and you draw a line. Now I don't know if you can see this line here, but there's a line right here, and it goes all the way down to the other side, all the way down the wall, and it turns and it comes across this way. So that's all one level line. And now we're going to work toward that line. So I'm going to show you here on the door what you do. Right here. You drop a tape measure down and you bring this up and you measure up to that line. Now here I have 68 inches, okay? I also have 68 inches here, 68 inches there, and 68 inches there. 68 and a half actually. But now when we get to the other side, when I measure up on this side of the door, the left side of the door, this is 68 and a half. And this is 68 and a half. So far we're hitting pretty good, right? It's all 68 and a half all the way down. Now we're in the back, into the corner of the window. When we start measuring up here, we're like 67 and a half inches. So there's an inch difference, but you can't tell that visually yourself, okay? You can't look at it, and this means that someone walking up to your house is not going to see it and go, there's a little bit of a difference between these two. They're not going to see it. This is what I keep saying is what it's like being a DIYer, okay? Because there's nothing in the world that's perfect, and this is how this gets figured out, all right? So we need to figure out that we have about an inch difference between this side of the window. It's a ½ inch difference on this side. So this one here is running up a little bit, but this wall over here in the back, this wall over here, this wall is perfectly level. It's just a little low. All right. That could be because of the way that we had to put the weep screed in or whatever, and this might have just happened like this. It's not anyone's fault. It's not a big deal. This is something that happens when you do this type of work. All right. And if you don't know that, you're going to freak out about it. All right. I remember the first time that this happened to me and Susan, and we were like, "Oh my God, what do? We got to rip this down, whatever." No, you don't, okay? You can't keep on putting it up because it's going to do what a buddy of mine, Tom, and we call him Bink, but he will tell you these stones will multiply. And Tom does this stuff, you know, well, he did this stuff for a living, right? But they multiply. And what that means is if you're off a ½ inch and you put the next row up, that next row is going to be about 3/4 of an inch off. The next row you put up is going to be an inch off. It will literally multiply because those angles start increasing, okay? So eventually you're going to be at a wall like that. So the best thing that I can tell anyone to do is get an Excel spreadsheet, write something down, don't make big adjustments. Like, don't just go in here and cut a ½ inch off of that. That someone will see. They will definitely see something like that. But you can cut little adjustments here, okay? So like this side of the window, this side right here, versus the side over there, okay, the right side, and I've got these sitting right here. This is one side, this is the windows in between, okay? So I'm gonna make 4 adjustments, 4 cuts. I'm gonna make 1 cut on 4 rows. It's gonna take 1/8 of an inch off of each layer, okay? No one's going to notice it. They won't even see it happen. And likewise, I have to do the same thing over here, right? But for that corner and these two edges, I got to continue this on for a little bit until everything levels up. Now, this seems like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work, right, Ever? This is actually going to take me up to like right about here on the wall. It's about all the adjustments we will have back here. That's it. No one's going to notice it. What's been going on right now is for the last few weeks, all I've been doing is putting stone on the wall. And what we've been doing is we've been marking a chalk line here, just like we did at the very bottom, all the way around. And then we're measuring off this. This is a guideline. Remember, it's only a guideline. But I've been measuring up to that top black line that also goes all the way around that I talked about in the last video. If you were to measure from this blue line to that black line right now, and that's going to be the top of all the stone, the blue line is, it's 11 inches. It's exactly 11 inches for everything along the way. So it is very important to get to the point where you're always the same distance from that line at the top, which I have already talked about in this video about how to do that, how to do the adjustments, okay? Sometimes you have to do it. The stone is not perfect, okay? The nominal value of the stone is 3.5 inches. That means that it could be 3 9/16, it could be 3 7/16, or it could actually be 3.5. So you might get lucky, you might have a whole bunch of stone that you're working with, it's all the same height, but I highly doubt it, all right? That's why we have grinders, that's why we have, you know, wet saws and stuff like that in order to cut the stone. Now, when I get up to it, which I'll start recording again, which is only, it's not going to be too much longer, because this is 11 inches on this line here, so I got to put this one in and 4 more, total of 4 more. Okay, we'll take us up to there. So right there is 14.5 inches. So if they're 3.5, nominal value again, 2 of them are 7 inches, 4 of them are 14 inches. We'll be about 1/2 inch below this black line, which is good. It's okay, because we're going to be below this 1/2 inch on this side and on the other side of the window, which is what we want. You want both of these to reach the same height. It doesn't matter if it's 1 inch down, 1/2 inch down, it hits perfectly, you know, 1/4 inch, whatever, as long as they're the same. Because when you bring that stone across the top, you do not want to have to cut it weirdly, all right? It'll look like crap, which I talked about down here on the bottom when we earlier in the video. So I'm going to get back to putting some stone up here on the wall, and when I get up there, it'll be, like I said, 4 more rows. We'll talk about that elevation. All right, as you can see down the wall, we've got the wall all the way up to the top of the windows, and we're starting to hit the next elevations here. All right, so the one down there, let me explain everything that's going on first before we go down this path. There is a line that I had put all the way across top of this, and I've talked about that a couple times. And yes, it was a perfectly level line across. And I did mention before that the tops of these windows are at different heights. Okay, these 2 windows are a different height, the door's a different height. And so there could be some sort of an issue when we got here. And there is. Now, it's not that bad, but let me show you more, and then let me show you the other window. Okay, so the top of this window here, you can see the stone is put up, goes right up to the top. And that is exactly what you want to get, all right? You want that stone to be at the top, level with the window, if you can get it. Now, 90% of the time I don't get it, but that was luck, okay? Now on this side, we're gonna have a little bit different issue, because starting right about here, this piece of wood bowed down, okay? Now we noticed it when we were putting up the stone, and I could have taken this down or cut this down and done everything that we wanted to, but if we would have cut it down that little tiny piece, over here on this side, I'd have been cutting a piece of stone about that thick to get across. So we were like, heck with it, we're just going to live with this, and this will be okay. So this side's not too bad, okay? So this stone on this side will look like it comes up a little bit because there's a piece of metal back here. It'll come up to that, and that top row above this will run completely across here, and everybody will be happy. Now, we get down to the door. The door has come out perfect, all right? We're down here about, about 1 inch on this side. When we put this stone in, we'll also be down about 1 inch on that side. No one will know the difference, and it will look just great, okay? And that's where you want to be. You want to be something like this or something like that. Over here is a little different. Now this is something that we did not notice, all right? We're measuring up to the line. These two went up perfectly. As we went up, it was like 36 inches. It get down to 11 inches, was down to like 7 inches. All the stone coming up, the entire wall hitting that line. And everything was great. Except for when we got to this point right here. We're putting this in, you know, I measured from here to here, and we were about a 1/4 inch off, is what it looked like. All right, and I'm like, well, there's nothing we can do. And the thing that sucks about this is, remember the first window when I said we don't want that little piece? We're gonna have to cut a little piece of stone all the way across here. Now the biggest problem is this stone over here is just a little bit bigger, all right? It's a little bit taller because of the way that this came up. There's nothing I can do about it, okay? These things happen in DIY all the time. And if I wasn't pointing this out to you right now, and you came to the house and you looked at it, you wouldn't even notice it. And that's just a fact. Okay, there's tons of things that you do as a DIYer that are just flat out that. There's a little bit of a flaw in them. And I will tell that to anybody. I don't care what you do with concrete. I don't care what you do with your retaining wall stone or anything. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be a flaw. And if you do it yourself, you're going to know this. So keep that buyer beware. If you're going to become a DIYer, you will know this. No one else will notice this, okay? If you ask a buddy of mine, Andy, or a buddy of mine, Tom, who goes by Bink, who used to do this for a living, I mean, this is what they did, right? Not exclusively on Andy's side, I don't think. On Bink's side, yeah, 100%, this is what he did. He'll tell you, every wall that he's done, there's a flaw in it. But it's a game. You're playing this game. It's it's like playing Tetris or something. And if you're good at Tetris, you're going to be good at doing this stuff. It is a game every wall that goes up. You got to keep those lines straight. You got to keep putting your lines on. You got to keep the stones level the best you can. Okay, and it's a consistent kind of thing. And if you get off, what makes you good is knowing how to fix it and get it right. Okay, that's the whole thing. So do as much DIY as you can, and I will get back to you when we start cutting the ones for the top. Okay, I know I told you I would film putting this up against the house, and totally forgot to do that because we are in a rush for time today, because you can only put this mortar up if it's 40 or above. Okay, so we're hitting around like 47 degrees there in Ohio, and so we're in a rush to do this. And I just remembered, I thought, you know, I need to be filming this for the video. Okay, so these cuts here are just normal cuts, so the same type of cuts that we did over here on this window for the sides. All right. So the way to do this is you take a brick and you set it up to the edge like this, and you mark this side, and then you set the brick on top here like that, and you mark this. Draw a line up, draw a line across, and you cut those out, and then dry fit it in. The rest of these, what you need to do is you need to measure up from here, whatever it is. This was 2 3/8, and then they're all 2 3/8 all the way across, and make sure you're following a line across this. It's a level line. Otherwise you get to the other side and you'll have issues. And then going across here, you're just following that same line all the way over until you get to this window. And this is the dreaded window. All right, so I'm gonna zoom in on this and then get up here and tell you what I'm gonna do and how to put these in, because there's a little bit of a trick up to it. And if you know the trick, it's not that hard. If you don't know the trick, it's a pain in your butt. Okay? When you get up to something like this, I'm going to take these down because I don't need them yet. What you're going to do is you're going to put a lot of mud on the back of this, so when you put it in, it's going to push mud into this area, so you can get this in here and push it onto the mud. So you want some extra mortar on it like this, okay? It's got to be some mortar on it. And what you're going to do is you're going to set this up here, and you're going to put the side in first and then push this in. And you see the mortar coming down, and then tap that. Now it's going to want to fall. So what you're going to do is you're going to get some mortar on this other piece here. You can get it off the top here wherever you want, and then you're going to fit this in and then tap it back, and that will support this stone on top. Okay. Now I guarantee if anyone's done this before and they didn't know about this trick, they're probably saying, man, I wish I would have known about that when I did mine. And then you can put some mortar on the top of this, and then that will push in behind here, like that. And now you should have mortar sitting here, and then push it in a little bit, just to make sure it's in there. Because you need it to be tight and adhering, because if it's just barely touching it, you're not going to get a good, nice tight bond with that concrete, or the mortar. Just make sure it's in there, and then leave it alone. Don't touch it, let it dry for a little bit, and then move on to the next piece. And you're going to do the exact same thing. So and then you're just going to work your way across this until you get to the other side. The other side, it'll be just the exact opposite of this, because this is already in place, and you're going to butt up to this, you're going to put the piece on top, and you'll be fine. You should be putting a piece in right here that's going to overhang, and then that will give you the area to put in your piece, and then you just continue on down. So I'll get back. Next part of this video will be us getting the stone that's up on top next to the ceiling. All right, just to build on what I just said about it being cold outside. It's like 45, 47 degrees here in Ohio, and the temperature's going down. If you notice when this video started, which was like a couple months ago, like in August, it was pretty warm outside. I was in, t-shirt, I'm still in t-shirt, but in shorts and stuff. And it was probably around, I don't know, 70, 80 degrees out. And I was talking in the very beginning of this video about how when it's warm outside that you need to keep moisture in your mortar, okay, so that you can still work with it. The same thing goes for when it gets cold. So do not recommend, manufacturer does not recommend working with this stuff below 40 degrees. Now you got to also take into consideration that is including a wind chill. Okay, so if it's 50 degrees out, you got 25 mile-an-hour winds, and it's 35 degrees outside, do not be working with this mortar. But if it's like 45 degrees out, you're not in a big windy area or whatever, you'll be okay. If it's colder than that, you need to heat the area. Okay, so you need to tarp off your porch or whatever you're working on and make sure that area is heated to make sure that this mortar doesn't cure super quick. And one thing that prevents mortar from curing super quick is water. You're going to notice at 45 degrees, 50 degrees, when you're using it, it's going to become thick. Okay, just like it did when it was really hot outside and that water was evaporating. What's happening now is that mortar is starting to cure. Okay, so you got to keep it mixed, got to keep adding water to it, and keep it so it's movable. If you put it on the back of a stone and tilt it over and it falls off, you are definitely way due for getting water. All right, otherwise your stone's just going to fall off the wall. You're going to put it on there, you're going to think it's great, you're going to put it on the wall, you're going to come back a couple days later, you're going to tap that stone, and it's just going to be loose. And then you got to take a grinder and dig out all that mortar and put the mortar back on it that's done properly and put it back in. I don't want you guys to do that. So this is just a big hint here. Make sure you add water to your mortar. Always check your mortar. Make sure that mortar is the same viscosity that it was when you were using it when it was warm out. Now, I will tell you, once you get up to this top part here, where you're putting in the very top brick in this video, which is coming up next, you need to have a little bit thicker mortar. It's still got to be wet though, okay? But it's going to be a little bit thicker, because when you turn that rock to put it in, it's going to fall right off your rock. So let's go get this top row done. Okay, when you're putting up these the bricks up on the top ceiling, what you want to do is you want to get them as level as you can with the brick out here, and then mark on the area below like this. Now I know some people are going to say, why are you not marking up with the wood? If you mark with the wood, yeah, you'll get it tight to the wood, but if you ever need to take this out, it's going to be a pain in the butt, and you'll probably knock a few of these off the wall. So you need to mark this on each side of the wood, each side of the brick, and then you can mark the top, on that, and on that, and then you need to cut a line from one side to the other. Notice I'm putting this down here, I'm not putting it like this and marking like this. The reason is I want that cut portion to be up at the top. Okay, now when you see this go in place, you're going to see this is loose, okay? Now wait till I put some mud on it. Alright, and when you put these in, you're going to want to put mud on it like this, okay? And notice the mud is a little bit drier than before, because when you tilt it, you don't want that mud to fall off. And when you push it in and you hit it, it's going to fill in the area a little bit. So that doesn't look as bad as it did when it was just rocking around, does it? All right. As you can see, the wall is done. All the tarps are gone. Everything is up on the wall, and we're done. What I want to do now is I want to tell you about how do you do this for yourself. Like, how do you get your square footage and whatnot. The way that I do things like this is I will measure up the wall, measure the length of the wall, and I'll get a square footage. All right. For us, I don't remember what that square footage was. It was over 600 square feet. Okay, I do know the end number is 676, but let's just go with over 600 square feet. Then you go in and you measure all the square footage of your windows and your doors and stuff that are, you know, that you're going to take that stone. You don't need stone for that. You subtract it from that original number. So let's just give us a random number here, right? Say you had 100 square feet of stone, and all your windows and stuff that you needed to take out was 40 square feet. So you take that 100 minus 40, you'd end up with 60 square feet. Then you take that 60 square feet, you multiply it by 10, you end up with, you know, 10%, right? Go to multiply it by 1.1. That'll give you 66 square feet. When we were done with ours, we had 676 square feet of stone. All right. We did end up with a couple extra boxes. I think we might have like 10 boxes in the 10 cases of it in the barn. That's okay, because we're going to end up using it for something else around here. I don't know exactly what. We may put it behind our fireplace. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do with it. But there comes a point where the store is going to charge you to take it back. So we will find something to do with ours. It's usually like 30 days. And if you remember, we started this at the end of March. It is now November 2nd, 2025. A long time to get something done like this. If you're doing this on your own, it's DIY. You've got to go to work. You've got to life interrupts your DIY. It always does. Things come up. Okay, making a video takes a lot longer to do. Get work done when you got to video it. So what I think, if you really want to do this to your house, you can do this. All right. The one thing I will tell you, when you're getting the mortar, especially the mortar type S, and the stone mortar that goes on top of the mortar type S, in between the mortar type S and the actual brick itself, they come up with some really goofy numbers. If you look at the bag, it says 0.45 cubic feet. Okay, a cubic foot is 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches, right? It's about this big. The bag itself is bigger than that, so you know it's got to be more than a cubic foot, right? My guess is one bag will probably make about maybe 4 or 5 cubic feet. All right, it's not going to be a full cubic yard. It's not going to be half a cubic yard, but it'll be 4 or 5. We had to return 21 bags of mortar type S. Luckily, they took it back. It was no big deal. They just said, here's a store credit. We're not giving you your cash back. Okay, I got a store credit. So when we bought the mortar, we bought as much of it as we thought that we would need. I had to go back, and we estimated we were going to need about 6 more bags. I think I've got 3 bags. Yeah, 3 bags that are left over. I can bring them back. We haven't had them for 30 days. Maybe I'll do that today. But those bags are like $9 a piece. Stone is about $21 for a case. So, like I said, make sure if you're going to buy it, you're going to have to order it. make sure you get that 10% extra, because you need to make sure that you have enough stone. If you do have a secondary project that you're thinking about, it's not really that big of a deal, but everybody's going to end up with some extra stone. Secondly, if you do end up with only one case left over and you're like, yeah, I got one case, I can return it, don't return it. There's going to be a day, possibly, okay, it could happen, something could happen to one of these stones. You don't know. Some kid might be driving by and mowing his lawn or something, and a rock get kicked up and bust one of those stones right in half, and you want to replace it. If you go and buy a new stone, that stone may be a different size, it may be a different color, it just could be different, and then that one stone is going to stick out. To figure out the cost of all this stuff, once you get all your stone and everything, you know, add it up and whatever, you can figure out how much this is going to cost for the stone work. If you're looking for an average, look for an average, I would say, on a really small project, like if you're probably doing something that's not even half as big as what we did, if it's a quarter of what we did, or if you're just looking to come up halfway up your wall or something like that, because that looks really good too. I mean, if you came up halfway up the wall and you put siding up, that would look great. It just gives you some sort of an accent, okay? But I would estimate anywhere between $3,000 and $12,000 for a project like this. That's if you do it yourself. That's buying the stone, that's buying the mortar, the tar paper, the lath, you know, all that stuff, and doing it yourself. And then set aside anywhere from 1 month to 6 months to get it done. If you got something small, you could work a couple weekends to get it done, and you know, some hours during the week, that would be fine. Now, if you're going to have somebody do this for you, right, you're looking at 40 to 50 bucks an hour. So you're always welcome back here at the shop, and as always, have a nice day.